Welcome back to the Psychedelic Archives. My name is Nathaniel Perl, and for all those who are listening, hello. If this is your first time checking out the Psychedelic Archives, I encourage you to watch the first episode, the introduction episode, where I say welcome and what this project is. I'll briefly summarize it. I am currently working on a storytelling podcast where people can come on and submit a story or tell a story on this podcast of one of their psychedelic experiences, ideally one that has impacted their lives. And this would act as a hub to collect all those kind of stories and share it with the world. I think it is one of the main reasons why I adventured into these spaces is because of stories of other people's psychedelic experiences, stories from like Aubrey Marcus, or Graham Hancock was a big one, or of course the McKenna brothers, Terrence and Dennis, and so many more, even Joe Rogan. All these adventurers, let's call them, or travelers, I was inspired by their stories and then adventured into my own experiences. I'm also working on the book version of this, which is really exciting. I think it'll be one of a kind uh, a one of a kind project where we'll have a book with not just stories but actual artworks, poems, and songs from all of you. And so far, I'm getting a lot of good emails and a lot of submissions. So I'll put a link here. Maybe it'll be right there, where you can, if you're interested in taking a step further, maybe you don't want to come on the podcast, but you want your work to be shown. We can get you in the book, and there's all sorts of perks by entering the book. Like you'll receive a free book, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be 10% of profits will go to MAPS for psychedelic research. And there's a bunch of other perks. So you can check the website and see for yourself what it's about and see if it resonates with you. So, okay. So far, I've been having some really cool feedback from this project. People are messaging me privately, encouraging me, saying it's a really good idea, and I think it's a really nice idea too. So I'm super stoked and excited about it, and I like to keep it going. So with your support, it's gonna help encourage me and reach more people. So if you haven't subscribed yet, you can click the subscribe button below. I'm gonna try to do weekly videos, maybe even twice a week, and we start getting guests on, and let's grow from there. All right. The psychedelic experience. I was actually very excited to share this story with me. Oh, with you, sorry. It was from an LSD trip I had with a few friends, two buddies of mine. It wasn't some crazy revelation. Actually, for me it was, but for the listener it might just be an interesting image. But this image still stands with me. This trip was about 4 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago. And this image is so clear, this vision, I would call it, so clear in my psyche, in my third eye, in my mind's eye. And it hasn't faded at all. It's like as clear as day, as if it just happened moments ago. And I'm so thankful for this image because sometimes you go through these darker moments in life. We all have them. And there's always some space I can go back to where I see this kind of image and it gives me more sense of purpose. And I think a lot of us, especially in today's time, feel like purpose is a harder concept to define. What is our purpose? That's so many people pass through their whole lives without feeling like they have a purpose. So perhaps this story will give you a better sense of a bare minimum purpose, which is more than enough after you have the story as a reference. But we get caught up in the hypnosis of society where you got to do this to get to there to get to here. And it's this grind and repetitive cycle, which is really us in a hamster wheel if you really think about it, because we're actually going nowhere. But we're achieving all these things, whether it's degrees or career bonuses and whatever label you want to throw on it. But there's a deeper layer underneath. Not saying all those things are bad, but there is a deeper layer underneath. Our true purpose, our true reasoning of being a human. Is it waking up, going to work 9 to 5? Is that what it means to be a human? Maybe. Or maybe there's something more. And that's what psychedelics for me has offered, is a doorway into that question. And I'm not saying I have the answers. I don't. I'm just as clueless as you. But I have an understanding, a personal understanding of my own experience that is native to me, and it makes sense to me, and it gives me this fulfillment. And I'm forever grateful for that. The psychedelics is not the only way, not the only answer. There's so many methods of achieving these higher states, whether it's through breath work, meditation, yoga, fasting is a huge one, or cold showers, cold ice baths, Wim Hof shout out. That can bring you to heights that you never even imagined were possible. And that's all without taking any molecules or substances to achieve. But I don't look at it as one or the other. I look at it as everything is an ally, and everything can help you achieve different states and different awarenesses. And these are all tools. And if tools are used properly, it gets the job done. And it's just about knowing which tool is necessary to use. And that's a big one, because sometimes mushrooms or LSD or ayahuasca is not the answer. Maybe it's, hey, you need to listen to what's happening. You need to meditate. You need to be very present. And other times it's like fucking life hits you like a collapsing building, and then perhaps it is time for guidance from a medicine from the earth, And when you fine tune your intuition and know exactly what's needed, which takes a lot of time, that's when these tools can really start to help you. In the beginning, it's a lot of trial and error. I think any psychonaut would agree with me. We've done doses maybe we should have lowered. We've done a little bit of reckless trips that ended up being okay because we're still alive. So that's also part of this journey, is creating a better understanding of the purpose of these medicines, and to renew and solidify the respect for them, because these are ancient wisdom medicines filled with ancient wisdom from our ancestors who've practiced ceremonies, who fine-tuned ceremonies to maximize and to harness what these medicines can do for us. So whenever I do a psychedelic experience, it's very ritualistic, and it's very ceremonial. The whole experience is to honor the experience. So I will make sure the mind is set as right, the intention is clear, and the environment is safe and protective of that experience. So, all that aside, this talking about set and setting, this was not that. Although intention was good, the setting wasn't the best, but it ended up being a phenomenal experience. So I will summarize the experience and then get into the vision, because the vision was the real meat and potatoes of it. And this vision, out of many visions I had that night, this vision stuck with me. And I think it's worth sharing. So, two friends of mine, we never did LSD before. I think I did it prior to them once before. And so we were curious. So we had a great source. So we all took about a half or a quarter tab. And we decided we're going to go see, we were going to go to some guy who was performing, some DJ was performing. I don't even remember his name. And we had tickets, and we're going to go and dance all night. That was the plan. So we take the tab, and then we go into the cab. That rhymed. That was unintentional. Take the tab and go in the cab. In the cab in our minds. No, but we took a physical cab. And we were on the way to the club. And then I just noticed, because we're all talking, even with the cab driver, I think we were talking. And then I noticed my friend in the front seat was just staring forward, like focused on the road, like that hyper focus. And I look at my friend on my right or left, I don't remember which side, and he was hyper focused, and I was hyper focused, and I realized that it already kicked in. It was only a few minutes. So we get to the club. We all have water bottles. We're just drinking water, laughing, talking. In Montreal, it was like a nice summer night. And the bouncer goes to us, says, "Hey guys, you can't come in with this water. You have to finish the water first." And we say, "Yeah, no problem. We'll finish the water." So we just started walking, and we never stopped walking. We never went back, and we were just like, as we were walking, we were like, "Fuck that place. Let's just enjoy the city." So, so we ended up walking through all these streets in downtown Montreal, and was looking at these streets that I've been through so many times, and I was just seeing it a little differently. Everything was different. I started feeling the energy of each street. Each street had its own set of, its own vibration, its own vibe, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, wow, this street is like, there's something happening in the street. Let's go through it. And we would walk through it, and just like, there was like a musical, like a jazz bar or something they're playing, and I felt like it was my first time actually walking through the city, because we were always going to destination, but to really observe your surroundings and take it all in, especially in a place you're so familiar with, is really unique. And that's kind of what happened. It was just like so pure and cool. So we were going through all these cities, all these streets, and it was just so amazing to see all these like textures. And even my friend there was a street sign, and I was laughing so hard. He looked at the street sign. He's like, "Why don't we look at it like this in front of you? Why don't we look at it like this?" And he went underneath the street sign and looked at it from a completely different angle. And it was like an analogy to life. It's like we're always looking head on. Like, let's look at every angle of every situation, every problem, every solution. Let's observe this thing and find out everything about it from every side. Yeah. So that this whole it made me realize like why these most creative, like a lot of creative tech people use LSDs, because it really opens that channel in the mind to see things from different angles. Fast forward, because we ended up, I'll just summarize, we walked for about 6 to 7 hours, and we went from like the heart of the city, downtown, to, because in Montreal there's this place called the Mountain, I guess, Mount Royal, and it's just this giant mountain in the middle of the city, and it's like there's like a nature path in there. People cycle in there and hike. It's really cool. It's kind of awesome that we have this giant, like I guess if you're a bird's eye view, it's like a nipple in the city. It's just this big mountain. So we were walking towards the mountain, and from where we were, it was like hours away. So we're just going towards it, and it felt like downtown was like the heart of the city. It was just like a beat, fast paced. The cars were like blood vessels going through. This is what was going through my mind. Blood vessels, and everything's fast paced, and it's like pumping out blood, pumping out, and like we were in it, and we're going, and then we're getting closer to the mountain, and the road starts to go higher up, and we start to have an incline, and it started to feel like all that blood is just going upwards, and it kind of slows down, and then it felt like we were entering to the brain of the city, which was the mountain. So out of the heart, we're going to the brain, and then when you're at that elevation at the top, you can look above, and that's the time to think and to slow down and to process. It's not so much go, go, go. It's more let's watch and observe and take in. And so we got to the top of the mountain. We all ended up staring at the moon for like an hour or 2 hours. It was like a full moon. It was so beautiful. And I remember clouds would cover the moon, and then I'd be like, it's going to come back. And then lo and behold, the moon would shine through the clouds and it would come back. And I'm like, that's just like life. You're going to have clouds going over the light, but then if you just wait it out and go through the process, the light will shine again. So little bits of information that keep flowing through in the psychedelic space. It's like you get these little nuggets of truth in all forms, and it's like, fuck, okay, there's wisdom everywhere. If I just stare at the moon and a cloud covers it, I can use that to understand my whole life, you know? So that was incredible, just being in that space up on the mountain, looking at the city. It was just so nice. And this is like 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. at this point. And we were sweating. We were drenched, all of us. We're all in like dress clothes, going for a 6-hour walk, like tight jeans and tight shirt and just like dress shirt. It was just like, just drenched. And we didn't we were just having the time of our lives, laughing and talking and like good vibes. So the setting is not necessarily there because we have external environments that we can't control, but it was actually perfect. We were a strong group, us three. We call ourselves the trifecta sometimes. We were just strong energy, and we were there for support for each other. So we knew it was all good. And let's get into the vision now, because it was around the mountain time where this vision hit me, and I'm actually getting a little bit of shivers just thinking about it. Okay. So I remember there was some moments where we would just like go into our own headspace. So we're there but not there, and that was one of those moments. And what happened is I don't remember exactly the state of mind I was in prior to the trip. I think I was a little bit more on the lonely side, or maybe that whole thing we were talking about in the beginning of the show is the purpose thing. I wasn't really sure about purpose. So this vision was visual. I saw it, but I also felt it. So there'll be two types of descriptions, like what I was feeling and then what I was seeing. What I was feeling was this push forward, like a kind of like I can't stop moving forward kind of thing. And it's not by my doing that. There was something behind me kind of driving. And it wasn't necessarily like a aggressive kind of push, but it was this like, you ever see like those cartoons where the walls are closing in and you can't stop it, and the cartoon characters pushing the walls and just moving them? It kind of felt like that, but in one direction behind me. So I can run to the left or the right, but it's still advancing. And I remember this sense of like getting pushed, and I'm like, okay, that's weird. And I look behind me, and I just see this line, not even two lines, and I was the point. So these lines were going perpendicular to each other, I guess. Not perpendicular, but they were going outwards diagonal. So they were meeting at me and going outwards. So like a shape of a pyramid or a triangle. And so I was the front of these two convergence. They hit me. And I'm standing in front here. And I'm looking back at these giant lines that are endless. And I realized they're not even lines anymore. It's kind of, the vision was unfolding as I was realizing it. At the front of the line was me. Right in front of me was a woman and a male. Behind them was a woman, a male, a woman, a male, a woman, a male, a woman, a male. And then behind them, it kept exponentially growing and growing and getting wider and wider and wider and wider. And it ended up being such a crowd that you couldn't even comprehend the numbers. And then as I started realizing what I was looking at, each face started forming, and each person was their own person. There was like, I remember seeing a guy with like a pitchfork and like overalls, like he was a farmer. And there was another guy who was like a blacksmith or something. And at the front of the line was my parents. And behind them was their grandparents, you know? And then their my great great grandparents, and it kept going and going and going in the shape of this pyramid, this triangle. And I look at it as like the arrow tip, the tip of the arrow, and I'm the tip. I'm the one in the front now. It's my turn to go. And that's what I got from that, is that all these people were all my ancestors, from the closest that I know of my parents and grandparents to far out where you lose track after. Some people are aware of their great grandparents, great great grandparents, and then go back 4, 5, 6 generations. No one knows anything really. It's just, you can pay a little bit of money on ancestry.com, and find something, I guess. But how many generations is that? 6? Maybe you can keep track of, but then it's anyone's guess after that. But we all come from that, regardless if we remember them or not. So what I saw was this army of people behind me. And then I got this sense that push was like, they were saying, hey, it's your time to shine. You're the front. You're the next one. Do what you got to do. There's no right or wrong. Just go for it. Just we made it. We've evolved and survived through millions of years of evolution. We've been through it all. The murders, the most horrific things to the most beautiful things. We've been through it, and we still were able to reproduce and bring you here. We were able to carry it on. And I just was overwhelmed by this sense of belonging and sense of importance and sense of, I guess, let's use the word purpose. That whatever the fuck this experience is, there was someone behind me that really wanted me to be here so badly that they did whatever they could because I'm here right now. So they just did it. And now I'm here because of that. And they're living through me in a sense because their DNA continued forward. And it like overwhelmed me with such gratitude because I look back at this crowd. I remember looking and I was just like, holy fuck. We feel alone. That's fine. Let's feel alone. But just know there's an army of people that were behind you and are behind you. And that's the reason why we're here. Because of all of them. All of them. You can't even, we have it so easy because of them. I won't just say it's easy. It's easy because of our ancestors. That they worked towards these times. But they went through some of the hardest conditions we can't even imagine. Probably going through the Ice Age. Crazy asteroidal impacts. All sorts of crazy predators attacking them or other tribes. Genocides. All sorts of terrible, terrible, harsh conditions. And they made it. They were able to carry it forward and pass the torch to the next person in line, to the next person in line. And I just remember seeing that DNA in such a visual sense. And I was just so flabbergasted. I was like, holy fuck. I'm here right now because of all of you. And I remember bowing and said, thank you to everyone. And they were all like bowing and some were crying and they were so proud of me. And then like, how do you live your life after that? When you know all this, when you see all that, it's like no matter where I am in my mind, I feel that vision, and it's there. It's like a warm hug if I need it, and it's up to me to decide what to do with that lineage. I can end it with me. I can continue it onwards. It's really, that's where we are, and yeah, it's really cool, and I'm very thankful for that vision. And if that resonates with you, just know that if you feel completely lost, if you feel that there's no more meaning to this, maybe think of that image and think of all them before us and behind us and what they did for us to get us here and that they're actually there to support us. So thank you to our ancestors. Thank you to that beautiful vision of LSD it gave me. And, I'm just going to keep moving forward. That's it. Thank you all.